Hello! I bought an awesome box set. I'll put the short here that I filmed for it, for the Master and Commander series, or rather the Aubrey something series. I don't remember what it's called. Anyway, Master and Commander is a nautical movie that I watched with Corey, and it was awesome, and I need to know more. So I bought the box set. It's 16 books bound up into these 5 or 6 editions. I think 6. So this book, the first one, has 4 books within it, so this is a bind up. So each book isn't that long, it's only like 300 pages, but I'm reading the first book within this bind up this week, and I am 3 chapters in, which is 114 pages. They're long chapters. So I'm about a third of the way through the book, I think. So far in these 114 pages, what has happened is Jack Aubrey has been told that he is now the new captain of this ship. He's collected a crew of sorts, and they've set sail. And that's all that's happened in these 100 pages, because it's been a lot of build-up and setup and establishing of Jack's love of music and his relationship with Stephen, who is the ship's doctor, and his relationship with the crew and his excitement for being a new captain, for getting this dream of his essentially fulfilled, but at the same time the loneliness that accompanies this new position, and a whole bunch of nautical talk. Let's talk for a whole chapter about what each sail's purpose is, which we actually have a diagram at the beginning of the book as well, talking about the purposes of each sail, which I love. So imagine this is the way I think about this book. Think about the way you read The Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings is very verbose. It's very description heavy. It's very it puts a lot of importance on understanding the world and the feeling of living in this world. And when you read The Lord of the Rings, you read it differently than you read a modern book. Because in a modern book, the pacing is just different. The storytelling style is just different. Whereas Lord of the Rings, you know you're going on a journey. You're going to take it slower. You're not going to need everything to constantly be moving. You're on a journey with the hobbits. That's kind of the way I'm feeling towards, at least the way I've been experiencing this book so far, is I'm on a journey with these people. We're gonna move slowly. We're gonna spend a whole chapter talking about sails and riggings, and that's just gonna be fine. At times it's very dry, but in a cozy, charming sort of way. I don't know how to describe it. It reads like a classic, and it has this charm to it where it's like, all right, I'm okay with just slowing down and having a really different type of pacing and a really different type of storytelling, because it just feels kind of nice. Does that make sense? Have I done a good job with it so far? I feel like I'm not pitching it to you well, but I loved the movie, so I am loving seeing the story in a different context. So, for instance, there's a lot of stuff that happens in the movie that's like, well, that was weird. like I'll give you an example that is inconsequential. It won't matter that I talk about it. In the movie, when we first set sail, we get kind of this panning camera of the ship and of the ship hands and stuff like that, and there's a goat there. There's a goat just randomly there. And in your mind, you justify it by saying, okay, food, maybe? In the book, you have Jack walking through the ship, getting acquainted with the ship when it's first passed to his hand, and there's a guy who smuggled a goat on board for no reason that we can tell. He just did. And Jack's just like, okay, there's a goat. I'm just don't care. We're gonna keep moving. And also, part of what this movie is known for is its score. There's this beautiful symphony. The score is just, it's gorgeous. And there's a big emphasis on Jack and Stephen's relationship with music and their bonding over music. And this book, Master and Commander, opens up with an orchestra, with a symphony that Jack is enjoying and appreciating, and Jack and Stephen's relationship is largely based on their love for music. So there's a lot of things that make me I can tell that the writers and the director of this movie, that they had a deep love for the books, that they translated to the movie in a way that there are these little things, like Stephen telling Jack in the movie, telling Jack, I know what it's like to not have a choice in where you go. Speaking of him, like, what? You're not on this ship by choice? What do you mean? You didn't choose to come here? And we get to explore some of those things that are just kind of dropped into the movie that make you go, let's unpack that a little bit. We get to explore it in the books. I feel like this is going to be such a niche vlog. I'm speaking about such specifics about something that's not even that popular. Master and Commander didn't even do great numbers. Whatever, I'm enjoying it. So that's what I'm reading. I'm going to see about finishing this book in this vlog because, you know, I like to open and close a book in a vlog, but also this is such a slow moving story that, I don't know, it might not happen. But I am still also reading Bonehunters, and I'm actually having a really hard time balancing these two because I'm so engrossed in Bonehunters that I'm not doing a great job of giving this the amount of time that it deserves, even though I'm really enjoying this too. So I'm happy. I don't know if you'll be happy with this vlog, but I'm enjoying myself. So anyway, welcome to the vlog. Okay, so I'm actually, since I started Malazan last week but only read the first few chapters, I've finished part 1 and I'm going to continue on into part 2, but I know I won't finish part 2 in this vlog, and I like checking in with you at the end of sections. So I'm going to check in with you now for Malazan, for the Bonehunters, and next week we'll talk about part 2, even though I'm technically starting part 2 this week. It is so good. It's so good. We have reached the standard Malazan pain, some difficult things that I just got to learn about that's been going on. So that was fun in this last chapter, but oh my goodness, we're also, I don't want to name any names. I don't want to say any names for established characters that are back in this book because the series is such a ride and you kind of never know what's going to happen to who. I don't want to say, so I'm hanging out with this character, and that'll kind of, I don't want to do that to you. So all I'll say is a lot of stuff has been going on. There's a certain god that I'm really excited to talk to you about in the when we do a spoiler chat that I'm really loving the interactions with in this book. There was a bridge scuffle, a scuffle on a bridge that happened in this last chapter, if you know what I'm talking about. That was so intense. Oh my goodness, the way Erikson writes these really, really tense scenes is just so good. But then also there was another scene with these characters that had they had made camp, and then one of them woke up and was like freaking out, and he was like, something horrible is coming, something tragic. I can sense tragedy approaching us. And because of the nature of who this character is, just that character freaking out freaked out everybody else, and I can feel the fear in that scene, and in the bridge top scuffle I can feel like it's so good. I'm in it. I feel, which is probably why these scenes where I find out that, you know, these horrible things are happening to children, I also feel it, which is why these books take so much out of me. There's some really, really, really interesting stuff being introduced in this, and I'm loving it. Some big reveals that are happening as well already in part 1 that I'm just like, what? Again, I know I have to keep these Malazan spoiler-free chats and the vlogs very vague and brief, which isn't everybody's jam, but we will have the spoiler chat. I just have to give you impressions and feelings. I feel like I don't credit Erikson enough on his writing. I did in the beginning, and then I haven't in a long time, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. But We already talked about, like, I love his characters. I get very, very attached to his characters. I feel the tension in his stories because literally anything could happen to anyone at any point. But then his moments of fear or of confrontation and conflict are so compellingly written that I'm right there with them. But then also, even in the way he writes these tiny little interactions. Like, there was one sentence in this section that I actually wrote down because it hit me so hard for no good reason. She watched him pull back every way but physically. In just those few words, something has been said that is so relatable, and like I know exactly what's being said. Like, you can see them mentally and emotionally withdrawing from you. Even though they haven't physically pulled back, you can see them just kind of closing down in that moment. And that's such a real interaction that you can just kind of sense from someone. And it was just, I know this feels like nothing, but there's lines like this all throughout Erikson's books that so perfectly illustrate this tiny little interaction, this tiny little thing that feels like, I know exactly what you mean, and how did you put all of that weight behind that tiny little sentence? You know what I mean? Anyway, I'm having a really good time. I'm loving hanging out with characters that I haven't seen in a long time. I'm loving my interactions with new characters. Still, the two crones, I think they were called, that I mentioned in my last video, are still my favorite characters of the book so far. The way they constantly bicker with each other and have this sort of dialogue. I'm already into chapter 7, so referencing something that happens in part 2. There's a scene where they're bickering back and forth, and then one of the characters just walks away from them, and one of them goes, "Oh, he's not listening to us anymore." And the other goes, "Yeah, it's because we're constantly chattering. We need to chatter less." They're like, "Oh yes, we need to chatter less," and then they just chatter on about how they should chatter less, and I love them. I love the energy that they bring, this very disoriented and confused, excited energy. I love them so much. Anyway, I'm having a very good time and a terrible time reading the Bonehunters, so super excited to talk to you about it as I get further in, but that is my part 1 check-in. Oh, also I have new merch. I'm wearing the Nakama shirt right now. On my other channel, I just did a video, it's a bonus video, very short, showing off some of the new merch designs. So I'll link that if you want to check it out, but I'm super excited about some of the designs that we've created, all of the designs that we've created this time. So look at them if you want to, don't if you don't. Did it. It was so good. It was actually 400 pages. I think I said 300 pages earlier in the week, but that is one book right there, 400 pages. It was lovely. It was dry, it was slow, but it was also really engaging and exciting. There were battles, there was conflict, there was a lot of in-ship turmoil. There were politics, there were really shady decisions being made, and it left me in a place that has me really excited for book 2. I think that if this is a 21 book series, if the next 20 books were all the same pacing as the first book, there's no way I would make it through the series. I might read one more book and then say, you know what, this is charming in its own way. There's other stuff to read. But I was reading some reviews, and several people have noted that the first book is very much a ground-laying book, and it's slow, steady, strong, but slow. And then, do you like this cord right here? And then the next book really kind of launches you into the story, and by book 3, you're running. And it becomes one of the greatest adventures, according to these reviewers. So I'm really excited because I really appreciated book 1. This wouldn't make my top books of the year list, but it does make a book that I had such a great time with. It's so classically charming, if that makes sense. I don't know, I had a really good time with it. Plus, I'm buddy reading it with a bunch of people on my Discord, and one of the people, he read it like a year ago, I think, and wants to hop on to book 2, so I've been posting chapter summaries for him each chapter that I've been reading, which has been nice, because then I feel like I'm really just stopping, because these chapters are crazy long, so at the end of each chapter I'm stopping and kind of having to contain all of the information in a paragraph and just kind of, I don't know, it's helped to solidify everything that happened. Maybe I need to just start writing paragraphs after I finish every chapter for every book, but it's been lovely for me. Anyway, I think we're gonna read book 2, Post Captain, next month. And I'm really excited to see if I kind of, since I enjoyed book 1 so much, I'm really excited to see if I feel that same kind of way where book 2 is when it really starts becoming something super special. Book 1 was really, really charming and nice, but I'm excited to see what this series' potential is, so I'm excited to keep going. As far as the movie comparisons that I made earlier in this week, again, the story continued to be a really interesting contrast to the movie. I really still feel like the movie honored the core of this story, although Google tells me that the movie takes place over the first 3 books, so I still have a lot more to experience in that way. But for the sections that I've read that the movie covered, it really honored this story well. It really took the spirit of what was being done and adapted it really, really well. Like, this might be one of my top adaptations that I've seen. And I watched the adaptation first, which tends to be my preference anyway, because I want to be intrigued by the core of the story, and then I want it to be elaborated on and expanded and explore it further, as opposed to getting the fullness of the story and then having it condensed and then hating the adaptation. So I'm really, really happy with the choices that I've made today. But anyway, it does a really good job of that, but it also does make a lot of changes. One of the most obvious changes is that the time period and the war that they're fighting in is changed for the movie. So some pretty major elements, some pretty major elements right off the bat get changed for the movie. But as well as that, there's character struggles and motivations that get shifted a little bit and changed and kind of split between certain characters, or that person's conflict is moved to that character. So there are some changes made, as should be for an adaptation, and I think that they all made sense. I also learned a load because, what's his name? Patrick O'Brien. He does use Stephen as a stand-in for the reader. There are sections where Stephen's like, I don't know how to sail a ship, and so then O'Brien says, cool, let me talk about sails for a while. And we get to learn a little bit of the ship lingo through Stephen's ignorance, but there's other things that are just dropped in there, and O'Brien's like, you know 1700 stuff, right? Good. Here you go. This guy was a sin eater before he joined the crew. And then I go down a Google rabbit hole about sin eaters. It was a good time. I had a fun time. And yes, I am still reading Bonehunters, but as I said, I want to do check-in at the end of each section, at the end of each part, so we'll check in again next week for that. And I'm still reading Monster, but we get weekly discussions with Philip on those, so they don't need to be in the vlogs. Also, this upcoming week is when I'm finally starting Dragon Ball, so if you're anticipating that, it's happening now. And I'm gonna take Tuesday off. So between the live stream and the trailer drop that I reacted to, and the merch drop video that was a bonus video, plus the 4 normal videos that I do, after the pirate recommendations video that is gonna be on the other channel tomorrow, that'll be 7 videos over the course of 7 days. And this weekend, I still need to plan, film, and edit Monday's video. And and I'm tired. So this has been a busy week. So next week, I'm not going to put up a review video. I feel like I don't think there's going to be that many people that are interested in an in-depth spoiler discussion for Master and Commander anyway. So maybe at the end of the first three books that cover the movie, then maybe I'll sit down and do a spoiler chat of those 3 books if there's interest for that. But Tuesday I'm going to take off. I need a break. But it has been a fun week. I mean, I've been putting up really fun content, so I've had a ton of fun. I just would like to breathe a little bit. So this week I started and finished Master and Commander, and I finished out the first section of Bonehunters. Chat with me about these books if you'd like to. Check out the new merch if you want to. I post videos every Tuesday and Thursday on this channel, Mondays and Fridays on my other channel, which is always linked in the description. I'll see you again soon. Bye.